Peace, family. Peace, peace, peace. We're going to get started real fast. Just going to illuminate something with my brothers and sisters, and then we're done. Hold on, let me get a little air in. See if that's enough lighting. Hold on. Let me check. Yeah, there we go. That's better. I have to get a little bit more lighting, family. Peace, 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 peace. I hope everybody having a good day today. But we're just going to illuminate some. We're going to share a little history, what I like to call our story, and then we're going to share a little bit of the structure of how the Moorish Science Temple is really set up, and how, when I tell brothers and sisters, nothing is a secret. It's probably sacred, meaning dear to our heart, but it's not secret. And everything can be researched about the Moorish Science Temple and understanding the language and how Noble Drew Ali set the temple up here in America. So we can remove the veil of dogma and people telling us it's some magical number and not breaking down language and what vast estate really means and other things, for people won't get caught up in fraudulent concealment. So before we even dig into that, let's do our little divine warning by our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And the Prophet warned all Muslims, governors, ordered to read the proclamation at each meeting. And it reads, it's dated January 15th, 1929. And it reads, I hereby inform our members that they must end all radical, agitating speeches while at work or in the streets. We are for peace and not destruction. Stop flashing your cards at Europeans. It causes confusion. Remember, your card is for your salvation. Failure to obey these orders will be of severe consequence. We are for love, truth, peace, freedom, justice, and when these principles are violated, justice must then take its course. Any member or group of members who hold malicious feelings toward the temple or the prophet or violate the divine covenant of the Moorish movement will receive their reward from Allah for their unjust deeds. Moors. All true Moors will and must obey the law as laid down to them by their prophet. If they lose confidence in their prophet, they should turn in their card and button, cease wearing their turban and fez, and return to the state where I found you. This is a holy and divine movement founded by the Prophet Noble Drew Ali. And if the prophet is not right, the temple is not right. The prophet therefore is sending out a divine plea to all Moorish Americans that they do their part in protecting the temple. This is an everlasting movement founded by the prophet through the will of Allah to redeem his people from their sinful ways. So today we're going to talk a little bit more about history, because just because February is over doesn't mean that we should understand history and understand where we come from and understand who we are today. So one of the topics we're going to talk about is one of the acts of 1710, and it was the Manumission Act of 1710. The Meritorious Manumission Act of 1710 that was enacted in Virginia. And during the enslavement period of Africans in America, Moors, this act of 1710, that Meritorious Manumission Act of 1710, was enacted in Virginia. It was the legal act of freeing a slave for good deeds. Keep that in your hippocampus. And so now we're going to fast forward to today, and then we're going to jump back in history. When people are always talking about sellouts and things, and a person doing this, and COINTELPRO, the first thing I always ask, brother, is, one, please look up what COINTELPRO is. Because when you say that, and when you accuse someone of that, those are real accusations. And if a person is really operating as a business, things can be done more. So just because you might not believe with a brother or a sister, or just because you might not believe with a person, doesn't believe that person is COINTELPRO. You should save the brother and illuminate them and bring them together in love and say, hey, we're not talking about religious dogma, because we understand the essence of all religious dogma if you're an adept. But we're talking about history and things that can be proven. And so when we see people selling out movements and each other for funds, those were real things. When people say COINTELPRO, an agent, those are real accusations, man. And today, your own brother will hurt you more than someone that don't look like you. When I tell brothers and sisters, my younger brother, Akil Jelani Bey, was killed by a Negro, black, and colored. My baby bro, when he was 25. And we always will, how can I say it, approach our own brother and sister with anger and malice. But we don't act that way when someone's stepping on our neck, when someone's giving us false information. I mean, we've been miseducated for so long, and I see so many brothers and sisters, when they don't agree with a brother or more, they have so much to say, and I say, well, where are your kids being educated? All these people going to church, and I'm like, this is the problem that we've been having. We are systematically messed up, because we accept certain things, just like the slave ship Jesus. When Sir Hawkins, that was a willing thing, and just like right now today, we're doing things willingly. And I tell Moors, you don't have to ask me. Everything I'm saying can be researched. Everything is recorded. Everything in history is recorded. Once a person reaches their higher self, you get out of religious dogma. But that act, that meritorious Manumission Act of 1710 was enacted in Virginia. Follow me. It was the legal act of freeing a slave for good deeds, as defined by the national public policy, and could be granted to a slave who saved the life of his white master or his property, invented something from which a slave master could make a profit, or snitched. I will repeat. Let me say that again. I got to put my eyes on, as my dad always say. Let me say that again, Moors. But it was the legal act of freeing a slave for good deeds, as defined by the national public policy, and could be granted to a slave who saved the life of a white master or his property, Moors, invented something from which a slave master could make a profit, like whatever you're doing now. Say if you invent something, say if you created something, it's not yours. Just like when you go back farther in history, Henry Ford wasn't the first person to create vehicles. Just like I showed you about the history of Jack Daniels when I show you the history of the book about the brother, Mr. Green. The book that was out in the early I think it came out in 1960 something. I got the book in my study, in my library, and it talks about the brother 50 times. I mean, the stuff is that, when I say, man, we got to get out this dogma and teach our babies and our empresses history, understand how we can be one, and understand about we are business, and operate, and stop complaining. But yeah, Moors, that act, which your slave master can make a profit, or you snitched on a fellow slave who was planning a slave rebellion or to run away. So that's where you can assume the term sellout came from, Moors. You know, and 300s later, and in this dispensation now, Negro, black, and color are still dealing with sellouts. But we could take a different issue of putting negative context on things, especially amongst our brothers and sisters that we want to bring into the light, you know. But for those who seen that selling movements out for a couple dollars, and no matter what it is, you know, it seems to be very profitable to certain individuals when you do those things, because that means you have no base, you have no structure, you have no values. If a person can buy you for a couple dollars, you know, and what do you stand on? Are you just speaking? And that's what when we can say, examine a man, see what his value is. That's what we're supposed to be doing. A lot of brothers and sisters started off good, with good intentions, man. And now they are doing the opposite things. I mean, look at them, you know. So we don't have to put negative ethers in the air. We know what it is, and we should adapt and make things right. We can teach our babies, man. There's no reason to argue. And we're going to talk about that, man. We got to look at things in an economic position. And out of this religious dogma, we have to look at things first from a historical position. Understanding who we are historically. Understanding who we are biblically. understanding economics, understanding micro and macroeconomics, understanding commerce, understanding contract law, understanding international law, understanding state law, understanding local law, understanding all federal law, understanding all those jurisdictions, understanding the full color of law, understanding language, understanding denotation, connotation, understanding geographical landmass. That's what we should be doing in teaching, and we have the right to do that if you are organized the right way. You know? That's why when we talk about self-sufficient and self-reliant, when I don't complain about nothing, we create. And I say a lot of the things that I'm doing might not make a whole bunch of money to some people, but I'm able to go because I'm established as a real tabernacle and a real school. I have my 501c3 status that allow me to go into communities where no one wants to go and teach strategies and teach business and teach real financial literacy, you know, and draw things up as in-kind service. Go into colleges and speak to a lot of the college kids that may be going pro and say, hey, man, this is what you need to understand about net and gross. You don't need no financial advisor watching over your money saying he's investing your funds. And I break these things down, how you can lose your money over the course of your career after you're done playing. These are strategies how you invest in your money. Your money can grow in its own once you understand percentages. But we have to be self-reliant and create. That's when I say we are master navigators and merchants, and we are the real Jews per se. You know, you have the ability to do these things when you are operate in business, which is legal. That's when I say we are less apt to business and economic independence. And when you understand that, you can't be bought because you understand what you're doing. And it might not be in the flesh, but when the flesh is gone, you know, who knows? May the ethers have all the books that I've gathered and compiled be used for research. All the clothing and things that we're creating for our young children that's wearing, maybe it be inspiration for other children and women and things of our culture to adapt to it. And say, hey, man, things have not been hidden, but have been right in our face. And we never looked it up. We never looked up what we were called before 1825, before the Civil War, before the American Revolution. We never looked these things up. When people were writing, when Othello the Moor and all these, the Washita Moors, we never looked this up about our empress of the Washita Moors when they gave all the land back to the Moors in 1990 something. You know, when you can research in the record books. When you research the war of Ferdinand and Isabella, when you research Sir Hawkins of the real ship Jesus, that ain't fake. They killed so many Moors, they named a ship named Jesus after it. Hold on, I forgot to get my charger. Hold on, Morris. My bad. That's what I get for talking and forgetting to do what I needed to do. But let me plug this up for my phone die on us. So hold on. Be patient with me. Be patient with me, family. There we go. There. It's just that. It's just that simple, Morris. But I always tell my brothers and sisters, it's always a type. Just like in relationships, you have a type of husband, you have a type of wife. It's a type of more. It's a type of everything. Everything is not right and everything is not wrong. You must investigate and take the same energy as you have in anything else, or making sure somebody clothes is real, or making sure somebody Jordans is real. Make sure you have the same energy of making sure you're real. Have that same energy. When a person is telling you that you some Negro, black, and color, and you some Christian, have that same energy when you can research who you are historically, when you can research things. Have that same energy when your kids come home from school and when so-called black history start off and they come home saying they start from slavery. Have that same energy. And you don't have nothing to combat that negative energy for your child can go back to school and say, well, for my studies, my mother and my father, this is where we come from. Look at the history of this. And show documents, show peer-reviewed things that they can use to say, no, we were already here, and we own land, and we were educated. Everybody didn't come from no Africa. Well, what is Africa? And then show the maps. The MacArthur maps is bullcrap. And show that Africa ain't a country, it's a continent. And show that Greenland, the maps they got is not real. And prove things historically and not from anger. That's what we do. That's what more science is all about. I mean, you have Morisco and Mujahideen back in those times. Those were Moors that was studying Islam and under Christianity by force or by choice. So we just have to be honest in things, and it's a type of all type of things. You have Moors that's coming from no bias perspective that give you all the resources and say compare this and make a sound decision, and then you have some that's under religious dogma and just give you one source and say this is how you should be. But more has nothing to do with your religious perspective. More is being your nationality. That's what it is in America with Moroccan descent. But let's make sure we understand this, man. That's why we should understand when I talk about people in history, when a lot of Moors don't even understand when I be talking about history, when I speak on the Black Hitler of Harlem. When you research this brother had an airplane. Some of his tactics might not have been right, but the brother is so cheap, he crashed his plane. He was riding on half empty like some brothers do. They be having $1,000 in their pocket, but be cheap with themselves and the people surrounding them. But the brother was doing a good thing because he was employing people. He was standing on them corners with the so-called Jewish business owners in New York saying, hey, look, you guys is making all the money in the community. You're not hiring no people in the community. You need to hire. He had one of the first, how can I say, job centers where he was getting people job action for $1 to employ people. And that's what we're going to get. That's what we're trying to create now. When I say I'm real, you can look me up. When you organize, you are tax exempt, religious, spiritual, charitable, scientific, education. You can create your own. Don't we know this? But I don't think we do. Because a lot of us don't understand business. You know? When you understand that, the more or less you are selling out. When you have economic independence. And most of the leaders you have is economically secure. And they had a high level of conscience at that time. You know? But we lost that thing of ownership. Man, I'm from a city called Flint, Michigan. I remember when I was a little, man, on Welch Boulevard and then on ML King and South Saginaw Street, all those stores was back in the day owned by blacks. All the homes was owned by blacks. And every Negro, black, and colored sold everything. And when the Arabs came in and sold their land for some pennies. And everybody was riding Escalades for 2 years. And now the Negroes broke. And now everything in the community is plight because they sucked everything out and they're gone. Everything looked like crap. But we complain. Property is cheap in our communities, man. Pennies. I mean, land. I've got land in my community. When they tore their houses down, I'm talking about almost whole blocks for $70 a lot. And we complain about how somebody teaching our children. That's what we should be doing, man. Like Carter G. Woodson said, and I quote, the ones selling out are the ones buying in. You know, we will always be sold out if we keep buying in to the empty rhetoric and promises of good times to come. What good times? And we will continue to complain about the sellouts, but we will also continue to be left out. Out of what, Moors? The prosperity that they enjoy. Who telling you that money? Man, let me tell you something, Moors. There is nothing noble about being poor, broke, and uneducated. Nothing noble about that. And if somebody tell you it is, that's that bullcrap religion. That's that European religion that tell you to be humble and not have this, but somebody else should have luxuries of the earth. That don't make sense. If you are supposed to be the rulers of this earth and enjoy the fruits of this earth, that don't even make sense. That's an oxymoron. And Carter G. Woodson said, Negroes choose their leaders, but unfortunately, they are too often out of the wrong kind. Negroes do not readily follow persons with constructive programs. Like when I had my temple out here, yeah, it wasn't the biggest, but one, it was clean. I'm educated. We taught structure systematically, and everything we gave resource. But the pageantry is what Negroes like. They like that hooping and hollering and that polyparroting. with no education. There's nothing that I'm talking about I just came up with and it just fell out the sky. It's just these are the things that's dear to my heart. This is what I wanted. This is what I wanted to know. Islam. These are the things that I wanted to know. These are the things that I took dear to me. You know, and we oftentimes we choose and follow sellouts with great zeal. So we should stop blaming them and start blaming ourselves. When we talk about preachers and things, they wouldn't have no platform if the people ain't there to listen to the crap. We're putting people on platforms. When I do lectures on different platforms, I say everything that I say, research pins out. When I do every time before I open my mouth, when I'm on the college campus, they say what I say, what we need to have right now. Everybody, paper and pencil. And I say why? Because I'm not here to convert anybody. I'm not here to make you believe nothing. Because your belief can be based on the lie. Your truth can be based on a lie. We deal with science, things that can be proven. And we let the chips fall where they be. I can care less what your religious dogma is. I know Moors, I know Christians, and just because you're a Moor don't mean your heart is right. And just because you're a Christian don't mean your heart is not right. If you understand the essence of what you're saying. If we say we are the essence of everything and everything comes from Moors, that's why our prophet said, don't throw away your Christian Bible. If we are from the tribe of Judah, lineage David, that's why they're going to talk about the genealogy of Yahshua the Messiah and Ruth the Moabitess, so we can clear all that mess up. You just been getting the wrong perspective and being taught wrong for all these years, and we don't do nothing. But soon as you don't like what a brother say, we be so amped up, and we have so much energy, and won't correct a brother from love. And that's why I say, brothers, look up what COINTELPRO mean. When I look up what a fraudulent concealment means. We must know what fraudulent concealment means, because some people are fraudulent concealing you, keeping information from you. And if you knew that, you wouldn't be standing on that falsehood. And these sellouts are in all circles, in political circles, you know, in more science temples, everywhere. But we can't blame everyone, and we can't put everybody in one box. Negro, black, and colored are divided over the most tribal political issues, unlike other groups that could care less. I hear you emperors up there. They care about only the economic of themselves. Negro, black, and colored are also divided over personalities, you know. And Carter G. Woodson said we usually go with the misleading, and then we do nothing. And we know it's misleading. And ones who are scared to make waves, you know? The docile type, the non-threatening type, the scratching and grinding. That's why when you look at certain jobs, you be like, man, is it a type? Yes, it is a type. It's always a type in certain platforms. The ones that don't know nothing, the ones that's program learning. Empress, I hear you up there. You know? That's when I say, what's the point? We must connect to real historical things. Right, Moors? We got to know these things. Just like when you research that, and this is in the papers, how whites kill Negroes and seize the city of Wilmington by revolutionary methods. White citizens of North Carolina overturned existing city government and at once established their own. So therefore, if you listening, when I tell people history was told in reverse, when brothers talk about some transatlantic slave trade, and I say, oh, well, you definitely don't understand what the Arab slave trade, that was way before then, how they enslaved millions. And then white cargo, you have to research all that. 9 black men are shot down. Slaughter follows wrecking of the newspaper office, owned by Negroes, by the best citizens. Hours of terror. You can reach all this stuff. Research all these things in history. You know? Then that's why I said this is school. Most people that study in African American studies in college have no idea of what it's all about. When I talk about the real cause of Civil War, and when I show them documenting stuff about slavery in Illinois, they have no idea. Everything is a mirage. When I talk about 1898 in Wilmington, and they like, what you mean? What happened in 1898 in Wilmington? I said, oh, you ain't know it was a race riot when we talk about the all the blacks and when they had their own town. But this happened all over. It happened in Philadelphia. It happened in South Carolina, you know, and it also happened in this period in Wilmington with the race riot. Listen to this. Listen to this, Moors. Consistent voting machines. They, in parentheses, who are they? The blacks, Moors. They never entered into any election. Complained a Democrat and other than partisan spirit. Political partisans, they were the most consistent voting machines ever invested with the right of suffrage. Remember I showed you the other book when I demonstrated what suffrage was, when Negroes don't tell you the truth, and the allegorical story of Samson getting his hair cut off, and I showed you the European, the Southern Belle, the white lady cutting the black lady hair off, and when she was losing her right, the suffrage, and suffrage was the voting right. But you let somebody get you caught up in spookism, and that's what you need to be checking. And I say, that's no truth in that bull crap they're saying. That was suffrage. Suffrage was losing your voting right. The allegorical story in the biblical scriptures of Samson, cutting your hair off. But they would gladly and readily, it was charged, expose the cause of any man who appeals to them for their votes on the sole ground of opposition to the Democratic Party. Remember back then there was the Republican Party. The Democrat was the Klan Party during that dispensation, Moors. But a person only going to get you one-sided, and they're not going to show you both. And so you can be like, oh, wait a minute. Because once you start reading and comparing both, you'll be like, oh, I see. But you have nothing to compare to. Just like in trained education in schooling. Mark Twain was a political writer. He wrote about Leopold in the Congo. He wrote about a lot of, you remember the movie, I can't think of the black guy. What was his name? I think it wasn't Sidney Poitier, but it was in Mississippi when he was running away into slavery. He was attached to the European. Mark Twain wrote that book. Revolution. It was called the Revolt of the Rednecks. Mississippi Politics, 1876 to 1925. You can research it in the book by Albert D. Kirkland, page 5. Negroes in Philadelphia. A Philadelphian told Alexis D. Tocqueville, Tocqueville, in 1831 that Negroes could not appear at the polls without being mistreated. And what becomes of their reign of the law in this case? The French traveler asks, the law is nothing. The Philadelphia replied, if it is not supported by public opinion. Do you hear me? I mean, I hope y'all understanding this. When we talk about voting, when we're talking about things, Islam Moors, when we kick real science, 6 years later, an English visitor asked why Negroes did not vote in Pennsylvania since no law specifically barred them, just let them try. He was told, the Negro in Philadelphia, Turner, Tocqueville, and Beaumont in America. Black government unions, discontent in the Republican Party. Perennial Republican candidate Daniel L. Russell had written to the State Executive Committee of the Republican Party of North Carolina that the Negroes of the South are largely savages and are no more fit to govern than are the brethren in Africa. Swamps, or so many Mongolians dumped down from pagan Asia. It was also recalled the Judge Russell, while serving on the bench at Southport and prosecuting a black for larceny, had declared that all Negroes are natural-born thieves. They will steal 6 days in a week and go to church Sundays, pray and shout their sins off and return to the bosom of their race, honored and respected members. See, this is the rhetoric. When I say, man, black laws, Moors, ain't no black person write that. You got to understand the language. Because certain things that you think that mean things in regular connotation and denotation mean something totally different in law. That's when I tell more, research what a real agent is. Don't just read the line. Read it all the way down in the context of what an agent that we're talking about, and then read it. These Negroes ain't no agents. A lot of people just don't understand what they're talking about. An agent is someone that's really doing something, that's really trying to do something. A COINTEL is somebody that's really trying to destroy something, not somebody that you disagree with. And if that's the case, you should have been disagreeing with the economic system, with somebody and everything. And just because we're now coming into the light, you're going to dish your own brother? No, we're trying to save our brothers and sisters, man. That's what this is all about. This ain't about bashing nobody or hurting nobody. We come from history and science, things that can be proven. But local black denounced Russell and noted that the bosses of the party here from 20 years or more led the average, Moors, Islam. That's right. You know, but the white bosses to the positions, and they have drawn the pay while the Negro was taught by the bosses, Islam. But Lorley declared that because the Negro had quietly submitted to bossoms in the past, it seemed to follow are called upon never to resist. In bondage, men have some protection, but none in politics. When brother got caught up with some damn civil rights instead of human rights. Men had only come here with their carpet bags, knapsacks, or whatever, you know? You call them, but now we're able to buy out Hanover countries, Moors. These men had come here, and by the goodwill, forbearance, and of the Negro, had held on the offices until they have come to believe they inherit them. This is what they saying about you when I show you in the book that it was Moors that was in Congress. I demonstrated that with history in black and white. But then when a European show, we be all caught up. I said, man, I demonstrated this years ago. Don't nobody have to tell you who you are. The history books tell it. It was against the independent black Republican movement was organized, and the independent Republicans were determined to overthrow this bossoms. Strength through struggle, William Reeves. You can research that in the HC Library, 1988, page 241 to 242. I'll give you references. I don't have to, and it could be from a European, a Moor, or a person that identifies himself as a Negro. Historically, things you can look up. Black Republican group forms in 1890. There was the organization of the Blacks, the Young Men Republican Club, with J.H. Weber as president. In 1895, the citizens of the First Ward formed a club in reaction to the fusionist politics so popular in the state's capital. They called themselves the Republican Afro League and promised to fight legislation in Raleigh, which would reduce their civil rights to mere quasi-citizenship. You can research this in the Wilmington merger, July 23rd, 1890, February 9th, 1895, and February 16th, 1895, Moors. And white supremacy Republicans in April 1895. New Hanover County Republicans formed a white man's Republican Party whose objective was to run the Negro out of office and out of local employment. You can research this more in the Wilmington Messenger, April 14th, 1895. The Republican Party view of black voters circa 1800s, 1880s, Moors. Before a review of how white Wilmingtons organized a white government union prior to the 1895 conflict, it is the illuminating to see how the white Republicans viewed their black supporters. This may reveal to the reader why white Wilmingtons saw a need to form this organization and how black citizens who voted against the Republicans were viewed. In the late 1885 Moors, future President Warren G. Harding gave this assessment of black Ohio citizens who voted Democrat. Listen, Moors. Now the colored voters have the privilege of voting for whom and what they please, but just how they can display so much ingratitude as to vote against the true representatives of the party that proved itself their liberators is difficult to understand. So yeah, we're going to give you the right to vote, but you better vote for who the hell we want you to vote for. And the colored voter who will vote against the party that proved its savior. Once again, here it is. A European, somebody saying that they're your savior, they're your God. I demonstrated they got you on the slave ship Jesus. That wasn't no joke. When you research Sir Hawkins, when you research the War of Ferdinand and Isabella, man, when they enslaved so many Moors, you got to do the research. Research The Shadow of the Bloomington Groove, Warren G. Harding and His Times, Francis Russell, McGraw, Hill, 1968, page 69. At the 1888 Republican National Convention, Moors, Ohio's delegation was headed by political boss Mark Hanna, future President William McKinley, and past Ohio Governor Joseph Fire Engine Joe Foraker to illustrate how Republican, remember that, carpetbaggers taught black voters how to use the franchise responsibility and how convention delegates support candidates. You hear that? And he quote, and I quote, this is what he say: a great many colored delegates from the South, as is their custom, had tickets to the convention which they desired to sell. They brought their tickets to our rooms at the hotel, and Mr. Hanna, in the presence of all of us, bought them. That's in the book. This was a prevailing attitude amongst white Republicans. Exactly. Exactly. That's why we have to understand dispensations and time periods. When the person just gets you caught up in words and rhetoric, and they don't understand about things that are being abolished. They don't understand about, it's a lot. That's why I said it's a science to this, and we must be willing to do the work. There's no excuse of not knowing the law in a court of law. There's no excuse. And studying law is your human right. When I give you the legal laws, when you say for the record, Your Honor, I can give you precedented cases. I can give you precedent cases. You must. Who's your legal representation? Not no damn lawyer or no attorney that works for the court system. That's under the British Anatomic Registry. I told you I'm getting my doctorate in Indigenous People Law and Policy. I sit in the courtrooms with this on my head, with this fez on my crown, on my captor, or I wear my turban, or my bonnet. And it's all love, because I come in peace. You get caught up in catchphrases. Are you a traveler from the east? I'm a traveler from the north, south, east, and west. If you go east, you got to go west. Don't get caught up in no catchphrases and no damn allegoric and there's no esoteric explanation of things, but it's not manifesting. White government union, black government unions. The existence of a white government union in Wilmington was the result of a racial polarization, which means a total annihilation, a total takeover that led most, if not all, black citizens into the Republican Party. As shown elsewhere in history, man, the Republican Party Executive Committee in Wilmington consisted of 14 blacks and 1 white member. And the governor, Daniel Russell, decried that all black characteristics of the circa 1898 Republican Party in Wilmington. That's why when I say Morris, you got to understand time periods and don't get caught up in the wrong time period. Because a philosopher, a real scholar, once you say something out of line about the time periods and the geographical landmass, your credibility is done. The rest is religious dogma. Remember that any black voter who showed any learning or reference for conservative politics was either shunned by other blacks or threatened with bodily harm, Morris. That's why when I said in the black churches, education and wisdom is frowned upon, because all the Negro, black, and colors do is read the Bible. If your pastor is a master mason, he know the truth. He know that the Asiatic black man, which is the father of civilization, because he's practiced Islam in secret. That's why he wears fez in secret, which is clandestine. It's just facts, man. It's just facts. While the conservative European citizens or the white citizens, and I'm giving you history, I'm not coming from no biased place, had a white government union, Morris, and it was led. The most recognized names is in Wilmington. And it was a practical black government union, existed in the form of the Republican Party, and it was led by many prominent names as well. The Constitution and bylaws of the white government union and is a statement reflecting the political element of that time, of that day, Morris, created by the fusion of the Republican and the populist parties. And as a historical document should be interpreted in that light. And it will be incorporating similar documents regarding the racial and political organization of the Republican Party in Wilmington in order to present an objective view of both sides of the conflict. And you can research this more. It's called the Constitution and the Bylaws of the White Government Union in 1898. And I'm going to read a little bit of it. And we're going to move on to the next subject. We're going to move real fast through it. Stay in the right context. Our state is the only community in the world with a majority of white voters where the offices selected to administer the government are the choice of Negroes and not of whites. This condition has been brought about by an unfortunate division amongst the white people, and it's likely to continue until the division is removed and unity again prevails among them as it did prior to 1892. The necessity for a closer union of the white people of the state is so apparent that it requires no argument, and that the necessity has called forth the organization of the White Government Union. The White Government Union Constitution, Article 1. The name of the organization shall be the White Government Union. Article 2. The purpose of the organization shall be to reestablish. Reestablish mean take something from somebody else. They're trying to say that you were empowered first, but the history books don't prove that. In North Carolina, the supremacy of the white race to promote individual effort in behalf of the party and its candidates on the part of the voters, and to bring the head of the organization in the countries and state more closely and easily in touch with the township organizations and the individual party voter. Article 3. Neither oaths, grips, signs, nor passwords shall be allowed. Any union may, if it so desires, adopt a badge, button, insignia, or uniform. Article 4. The organization shall be divided into county unions and township unions. 5. Every white man who desires white government in North Carolina and is willing to use every practical and honorable means to restore white supremacy therein, and who proposes to support candidates pledged to effect the purpose in the ensuing election shall be eligible to membership of the township union. 6. The county union shall be composed exclusively of the chairman of the several township unions and the chairman of the Democratic Executive Committee of the county, who shall preside over the meetings. Man, I can go on and on and on and on and on, man. But I hope you understand what I'm saying. When slavery was here in the States, when I show you slavery in Illinois, I'm just gonna give you a little bit because we're gonna move on. Slavery in Illinois. Watch this. Let me show you something. How you laughing? Well, not laughing, but be like, yeah, I see. Watch this. Let's see how we can get into slavery, Illinois. We talk about the Mason-Dixon line, how in 1717 and 1721 wars, Illinois was a free state, even though the French land promoter Roulet, R-E-N-A-U-L-T, imported slaves to provide labor for the existing French settlements and mines in southern Illinois. Whereas I can take you all over the board when you go to the Congo, when the President Mamunga, when the Belgian went over there, and not only the Belgian, but his own people helped kill him. Many slave owners from the border states of Tennessee, Missouri, and Kentucky rented their slaves for labor to the people in Illinois. The main concentration was at the Saline Salt Works in and around Equality, Hardin County, Illinois. William Morrison was the only Illinois resident to rent out slaves in Illinois to Illinoisans. Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation did little to help the slavery issue in Illinois, as slavery had officially been abolished in 1837. Gary Denilly of Spring House Magazine has more than adequate explored the conditions of John Crenshaw's activities at the old slave house north of Equality, Illinois. Basically, it says the Saline Salt Works of Hardin County was operated by John Cruson. There were no mines, but the springs were very saline, and the water was boiled away in huge pots, leaving the salt. So you know who was working at. Right, Morris? The Black Codes of Illinois. This stuff is recorded. French slaves were still slaves in spite of the Northwest Ordinance of 1787. And when Illinois became a state in 1818, it was still legal to own and use slaves, sanctioned by the state constitution, especially in the Saline Salt Works. The new constitution, however, gave freedom to the children of slaves. 1880, faced with near certainty that Illinois would be accepted into the Union, etc. You can go all through that. But then I want to give you some history about Uncle Bob Wilson. Listen to this, Morris. Crenshaw kept a special slave. Uncle Bob Wilson was a stud slave and admitted to having fathered over 300 children, all of which were taken across the border to Kentucky and sold. He was well known for his children who became strong and healthy and bought a large sums on the docks. When I show you how they groom brothers and sisters too to be athletes, but that's a whole nother subject. Bob was a veteran of the Civil War, having fought on the Confederate side. His special background was discovered by an Illinois state welfare investigator in 1947. He died on April 11, 1948, at 112 years old, as a ward of the state in the State Hospital for the Insane, now known as the Elgin Mental Health Center. Hey, we can go all through history, Morris. I can give you about the contraband train. I can touch all through history, Morris. I can give you history of the first families of Kane County in the 1800s. I just want to skip through something. And then we're gonna get. Let's see. Let me get past that. I can show you about the first migration to the north, the 40 acres and a mule. All this stuff, man, it can be looked up. It's just sad that we don't understand history or our story. So now I'm going to read another article. I'm going to read something to you because now we're going to talk about this more science, man. I got a little time to do. When people be getting you caught up and man, this bull crap, man, when I talk about what fraudulent concealment is. When I tell my brothers, if anybody on here, please pull up fraudulent concealment. And fraudulent concealment, this is what your own brother and sister can do to you. When they getting you in things, when they're getting you caught up on how they speaking, because they sound good and they giving you no reference and giving you nothing to compare to. When they showing you things and the person not looking it up, it's like, man, that don't mean nothing. When I talk about affidavits and how the Moorish Science Temple was set up and what the 10-10-990 numbers are, people telling you that's connected to some vast estate. And I'm laughing. And I'm like, man, you got to understand what the vast estate is. And I'm going to show you how the temple, I'm going to show you everything, how the temple is set up, all that. I'm going to show you a letter that was sent to the Bushes. And then we're done. Because we got to keep things clear, man, when people just making stuff up. And you can research everything I'm saying. Only person that'll get upset is a Negro, black, or colored, or a Moor with a fez and a turban on, a religious dogma. And if they say they are Moor, part of the Moorish Science Temple of America, they know for a fact that I'm telling the truth of how the temple was set up. So, I'm not going to say the name of the person, but you can research this. This was something you can research. This was in 2016. And in 2016, it was Karen A. Yarborough. It was a recorder of deeds, registrar of Torrens titles, Cook County, Illinois. And it was dated July 8th, 2016. It was headed to a sheik and a sheikess. And I'm not going to say the names because there's no need. And I hope, and read and follow me. In the past few days, the Cook County Record of Deeds, CCRD, Cook County Record of Deeds, has received several forms of emails, correspondence from you regarding concerns that you have involving the organization documents and other documents relating to the Moorish Science Temple of America, MSTA. I am writing to address these concerns and clarify the role that the CCRD has as the custodian of public records. The custodian of public records. Remember, an organization is people that can organize. Same thoughts, religion. You can organize yourself and make it public record. I hope we know this. That's when I talk about reserving your right. But many of your concerns were raised, many of your concerns was raised in the form of numbered questions. CCRD's response to the questions are as follows. And I'm reading it from the document. In her capacity as the Register of Torrens titles, what is the full scope of the fiduciary duty on to document 10-10-5905 and the resulting entity, the Moorish Science Temple of America, as a body politic, named in the said document? The response. After reading your question, I assume that you are asking what the recorder's duties and responsibilities are in relation to this and or documents. In this regard, the recorder has two specific duties and responsibilities. First, the recorder is responsible for recording documents that are entitled to be recorded. I hope you follow me. Second, the recorder has the responsibility of being the custodian of all recorded documents. The document 10-10-5905 is an affidavit of organization under the Religious Corporation Act 805 ILCS 1010. Under the Religious Corporation Act, there are specific requirements that need to be met in order for a document to be recorded pursuant to that act. At the time that this document was presented to the CCRD, it met all of the requirements and it was recorded. As custodian for this document and other recorded documents, unless specifically restricted by law, the documents are made available for purchase by the public. When I tell you, anytime you do something the right way, you can pull up anything. When a person telling you, oh, 501c3 is under my organization, the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and Schools is 501c3. Do you hear me talking some stupid stuff? I tell you, you have the right to teach your people, but you must do it the right way. So, in other words, Morris, if a customer requests to purchase a certified or non-certified copy of this document from the CCRD, they will provide such a copy to the customer if they paid the fee. Just like when you go to the store, when you buy something, you get a receipt. You just did business. I mean, I don't be knowing what people be talking about. In your community, how are you going to do things in your community? How are you going to change the economic structure in your community if you're not a nonprofit organization? Just like all the other, just like the Goodwill, the YMCA, that's doing things in the community that the people in the community can donate to. CCRD has no other duties and responsibilities relating to this particular document. In other words, CCRD is simply a custodian of this record and makes this available to public for a fee. What are the procedures for filing documents under the 805 ILCS Religious Corporation Act related to property, mortgage, notes, etc.? Let's dig. Response. This is the response. Real estate related documents such as property deeds, mortgages, or notes are not recorded under the Religious Corporations Act. For the recording requirements for the real estate related documents, please see state recording statute at 55 ILCS. What are the procedures for including the Moore Science Temple of America to the list of body politics on file with the Cook County Recorder of Deeds? Response. CCRD does not maintain a list of body politics. With this said, as mentioned above, the CCRD accepts documents relating to the organization, the incorporation. When I tell Morris, my 3 IDs, on one of my IDs, it's our tax exempt number, and I use it. If any more telling you that, they ain't nationalized through the Moore Science Temple of America, because there's only one. I don't care if you in Mississippi. I don't care if you in North Carolina. When you nationalize through the Moore Science Temple of America, it's only one. Period. How can it be? It's only just like the Burning Bush Tabernacle Science Temple and School. It's only one, and we only have one tax exempt number. I created that for my own school to teach my own people, but I am a Moore, part of the Moore Science Temple of America, and on one of my IDs we have our tax exempt number, which I use, and it ain't no 1010 number. So where we at? Okay, so I said, what are the procedures for including the Moore Science Temple of America to list the body politics on file with the County of Cook Recorder of Deeds? The response, the CCRD does not maintain a list of body politics with the said, as mentioned above. The CCRD accepts documents relating to the organization, incorporation of religious entities under the Religious Acts, under the Religious Corporations Act. The document that you are concerned with is document 1010-5905 has already been recorded by the CCRD. Isn't it true that the accordance to provisions made possible for the body politic under home rule, that documentation and laws of the Moore Science Temple of America as a body politic are applicable to the management of said trust? The response, the CCRD is unaware of what specific documentation and laws are applicable to the management of any trust maintained by or for the benefit. Yep. Exactly. And I'm glad my brother just did that, man. Islam Mo. That's when I tell brothers to research things. Fraudulent concealment, it's not just some court thing. It can be something that your own brother can do. That when they just spoon feed you information, they say read this line, and get you caught up with genre that you ain't read what's above, in the middle, and the end. When I tell brothers and sisters, you're not a hybrid, you must read all of it and see what a hybrid is when you get to the bottom, to the context. That's why it's a European Masonic trick. When I say we must understand the full color of law, the full color, all sides, not just getting caught up in some black laws. Fourth edition, it's so many levels of black laws, but it's other books that trump black laws. I'm telling you, there's a lot of stuff in there that's out of date in the court of law. And if you go in there with that, they're going to know you're not a study and operate on your square. Because you would have known what's precedented and what's abolished. So, the response. It is unaware specific documentations and laws are applicable to the management of any trust maintained by or for the benefit of the Moorish Science Temple of America. I would like to note that the Religious Corporation Act states that, trustees of religious organizations shall have the care, custody, and control of the real and personal property of that organization. Yourself. C 805 ILCS. CCRD is not a trustee of any trust or trust assets being held by or for the benefit of the Moorish Science Temple of America. Has the office done any research, any competent research to determine who are the current executive rulers of the adapt chambers of the Moorish Science Temple of America, the sheiks with power and duties similar to that of a trustee? When I show you the holy nation, how the temple was set up, when it was set up, when I say not elected but appointed, elected and appointed mean two different things. When you are appointed, it means something must be under this fez. So, responds. It is my understanding that the current sheiks of the Moorish Science Temple of America are reflected in record documents. That AIM document 1010-5905. If there were any changes to the trustees of this organization that are not reflected in these documents, the CCRD would not be aware of them. So just like in my organization, that's set up with our doc number. Every so often, if you're going to make updates to certain things, trustees or whoever, chairman of things, you do that. That's all. That's if you understand legal language, that's all it is. When I tell people it's business, it's what it is. That's why it's certain things set up a certain way so you can do business. But people operate in the lower self, oh, the Moorish Science Temple is a religious organization. Psh, man, you don't understand what a corporation is all about. So is the office aware that only the founder, Prophet Noble Ali, has the authorization to issue 1010-5905, as such has been the case since 8/1/1929? The response, although I am unclear what you mean by issuing the document. What they saying by what I'm unclear by what you mean issuing the document, and he just explained what that document was. But part of the recorder's duties include maintaining recorded documents and providing certified and non-certified copies of recorded documents for sale to the public. Another question, is this office aware that the unauthorized issuance and collections of funds resulting from said issuance constitutes a breach of the registered fiduciary duty as custodians, criminal fraud, embezzlements, etc.? Listen to this clearly. Response. Your position is legally and factually incorrect. Please see the relevant statutory authority reference above. And this is my thing when Negro, Black, and Colored, and even Moors, they try to tell you, you don't deal with this, you don't deal with law. Then they try to throw some black laws in your face and then try to tell you to go to court. But then they try to say that there's some above some law because they're not telling you law. They quote some black laws and then they try to say they're above the law. And they go and they not breaking down state law, local law, federal law. They're not telling you that UCC mess is bullcrap. They're not telling you about what straw man really mean. It ain't nothing. It's about activating it. Just like somebody is operating as over your estate or power of attorney because they don't understand law. In some of your other correspondence, you indicated that the CCRD has refused to file certain real estate and non-real estate related documents and index them under trust 1010-5905. To be clear, document 1010-5905 is not a trust document. This document is simply an affidavit of organization under the Religious Corporations Act. What this means is that the document serves as a record that the Moorish Science Temple of America is organized, incorporated as a religious corporation under the Religious Corporation Act. And if any more say something else, I ain't dealing with it. They getting you caught up in some bull crap. They getting mad and upset. But I don't give a damn how mad and upset you can get a law. Go to court with some bull crap and see what happened. I'm talking about things that it doesn't matter. CCRD is not a trust of any trust or trust assets maintained by the MSTA. When the person squatting in the house and saying it's their right to squat in the house, you got to understand what adverse claim is. That's law. And it's a process of doing that. It's a process. Just like in the community, when somebody move out of the house, like how we got a property blight, when it's gone, we get it donated to us. Or say it's just a house in our community and a person abandoned it, we pay the property taxes. In Michigan, they have 3 months to pay that property taxes. If not, boom. But there's certain things to do. Just like if you find a bike on a sidewalk and pick it up and take it home, that bike wasn't lost. You can go to jail for stolen because you didn't follow the proper channels to post that to the public to let it be known, hey, bike been filed. It's a certain time that you post it. Once that's been done, then you can claim it. Just like how the temple was set up when it was set up as a corporation, had to be publicly noticed. Just like mine had to be public notice for 3 weeks. I hope brothers and sisters follow me. But that responsibility lies with the MSTA. That responsibility lies with the MSTA. If you are having difficulty recording certain documents in our office, please refer to the recording requirements referenced in the legal authority cited above. That's why when I said when you're operating right, nobody can deny you. Finally, you indicated that you would like MSTA to place employees in CCRD for various purposes. And I repeat, we got to understand this is state law. And state law clearly indicates that you have no authority to demand that you employ members of your congregation in our office. The recorder has the right to control the internal operations of her offices, just like the same way you do. I mean, I don't know what brothers be talking about. So let's dig a little bit in this and I'm done. I'm already on went for an hour. I'm going to give a little bit of this. And I'm done. These are the teachings of Noble Drew Ali as expressed by the Supreme Grand Sheikhs. Islam. We greet all Moors in love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. With high honors to the great God Allah, the Father of the universe, and the holy and divine Prophet Noble Drew Ali. We wish to expound on how the Moorish Science Temple of America was declared and recognized free national government throughout the earth. Sometimes as Moorish American, in this new era of time, we struggle on explaining who we are within such an ignorant and unconscious society, being based in the color of law and the concept of Christianity. But in reality, if we teach and do this great work as a government properly does, while running this ecclesiastical body politic and corporate, then people on all levels will understand by our works and deeds and may be fulfilled on the divine national movement as well. The Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali stated, a beggar nation cannot attain to its highest spirituality. I will keep the Europeans here long enough to teach you how to run a government. So let's stop begging for what we should be working hard to retrieve it ourselves, because the Prophet is keeping the European here long enough to teach us how to run a government. This is what we should learn how to do. So I wrote this pamphlet to help you realize how serious this divine and national movement is, and to expound on what our mission is. Our mission is to uplift fallen humanity. That's our mission. All nations have missions to fulfill, and we will appoint missionaries to make certain that those missions are to take place. We are missionaries. Just like missionaries and colonists came with a mission, with a plan. So I hope many Moors take from this pamphlet a precious value in understanding and knowledge of this free national government being incorporated under the Heard Smith Revised States of the state of Illinois as an ecclesiastical body politic and corporate mores. The Vatican State was incorporated under this particular act as well since 1929 mores. In this basic pamphlet is a very basic concept of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This book is written to the best of my knowledge, and if there are corrections that need to be made, then please share your opinions with us. Definitions of state. Let's begin and explain the definition of a state, Moors. My Empress said I got 20 minutes. A state is a people permanently occupying a fixed territory, bound together by common law, habits, and customs into one body politic, exercising through the medium of an organized government, independent, sovereignty, and control over all persons and things within its boundaries, capable of making war and peace, and of entering into international relations with other communities of the globe. A political unity. Concretely viewed, a state is a body politic possessing sovereignty. Collectively, not individually. Any body politic possessing sovereignty is entitled to be called a state, Moors. This is a good characteristic to be described. To be described the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moors. The people described is the state. Would be described as the members of the Moorish Science Temple of America, Moors. By definition, family, of state, the fixed territory for our state would be the northwest, southwest, northeast, and northwest of Mexico, Moors. The common law habits would be focused towards our practices and Chapter 32, Moors, of the Hurd-Smith Revised Status of the State of Illinois, Moors. By definition of state, the character who would have independent sovereignty in our state is the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali. Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali is a true sovereign, Moors. Moorish Science Temple of America is a sovereign body. We are not sovereigns, but members of a sovereign body politic and corporate. In comparison with the term state, let's now define the term body politic so we can be clear with things. Body politic is defined as a social compact by which the people, which the whole people, Moors, covenant with each other, with each citizen with the whole people, Moors, that all shall be governed by certain laws for the common good, Moors. Also a term applied to a municipal corporation, a school district, a county or state or city or public association, Moors. So when looking at the term government, Moors, we can see that this with the term state, body politic, and body corporate, and we can understand the similarities of the particular terms, Moors. I hope you follow me, family. Government derives from the Latin terms gubernaculums, Gubernaculums, which is defined as a system of polity in a state that form of fundamental rules and principles by which a nation, Moors, or state is governed. Polity is the form of government, Moors, whether theocracy, federal, anarchy, etc. There are many forms of governments, Moors, but this particular form of government where we're talking about that the Moorish Science Temple of America is known as is a what? Theocracy. The definition of theocracy is defined as government of a state by the immediate direction of God or by the assumed direction of a supposititious divinity or of the state thus as governed, Moors. So what I'm saying, Moors, is that as members of this body politic that a lot of Moors like to say but don't explain, we recognize the Creator, God Allah, alone guides this divine and national movement, Moors. A theocratic entity, Moors, differs from the form of a secular entity. The Moorish Science Temple of America is a divine and national movement that has divine laws and holy laws that each member are to uphold and preserve. And if they are to earn the name of faithful as afforded by Act 7 of the Moorish Divine Constitution and bylaws. Right, Moors? The Moorish Science Temple of America will be established as a religious corporation by filing the affidavit of organization. What I just read? What affidavit? Document 10-10-5905, Form 1099, recorded in the Record of Deeds Office in the County of Cook, State of Illinois, on August 1st, 1928 A.D. at 2:52 p.m. And at that time, through this affidavit, Moors, Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali gave birth to a free national government as an ecclesiastical body politic and corporate under the revised status of the state of 36, section 36, Moors. Don't we see that science and how he established it? July 20th, 1928 was the third day in the beginning of a new moon during the sign of Virgo. August 1st, 1928 was the day of a full moon. So that's something that, when he notarized and he recorded the affidavit on July 1st, 1928 AD at 2:52 p.m. The Heard-Smith Revised Status, Chapter 32, an act concerning corporations, Section 36, Religious Corporation Act, played a huge origin on the establishing the Moorish Science Temple of America as an ecclesiastical body politic and corporate family. How can any subordinate temple of the Moorish Science Temple of America not operate under the Heard-Smith Revised Status, Chapter 32, Section 36? Because this act clearly states that any church, congregation, or society formed for the purpose of religious worship may become incorporated in the matter followed by electing is crossed out, appointing according to its usage or customs at any meeting held for the purpose, two or more trustees, warden or vestrymen, or such offices whose powers and duties are similar to those of trustees, as shall be agreeable to the usage and customs, rules or regulations of such congregations or church societies, and may adopt a corporate name, and upon the filing of the affidavit, as hereinafter, provided it shall be and remain a body politic and corporate by the name so adopted. So what I'm saying, just because a person have a title of a sheik, don't mean that they have an adopt wisdom. They just might be operating as a trustee, breaking down the laws and the acts. But that don't mean that they're knowledgeable to take things to the next level. So as you see, when you study the Religious Corporation Act and glance at the affidavit of organization, which is the original form of the 1099, Moors, you will see how our Prophet Noble Drew Ali followed the substantial form of this revised status, or the revised statute, Moors, and then expressly organized an ecclesiastical body politic and corporate, known as what? The Moorish Science Temple of America. How? By that name so adapted. I hope you're following the language. This simple pamphlet that I'm showing us, Moors, this will end all the confusion and foolishness of those who say the Prophet did not establish a state, a nation state. It's many of conspirators' hearts are beating rapidly now. So we're going to speed up the pace, Moors. Many people might ask, how was this body politic and corporate duly established? And the answer is by filing in the county of Cook, recorder of deeds office, an affidavit substantially expressed by our Prophet Noble Drew Ali himself, being the presiding officer. He sworn that the meeting of the members was held, stated facts of our power and authority, and having the sheiks duly appointed and consecrated. This instrument is well known as our authority, but it is really titled the Affidavit of Organization. By definition, an organization can include a wide range of entities. Organization is defined as a corporation, a government, or governmental subdivisions, or agency, trust, estate, partnership, or association, two or more persons having a joint interest, or any other legal or commercial entity. We can go deeper, Moors. In order to organize as an ecclesiastical body politic and corporate at that time, a church, society, or congregation, pursuant to the laws of the Heard-Smith Revised Status of the state of Illinois, the affiant had to file in the office of the recorder of deeds an affidavit, Moors, substantially in the following form of the Heard's Religious Society Act of 1872, Chapter 32, Section 36, codified by the General Assembly as 805 L, capital ILCS 1110-36. You know? I mean, this is one of the original affidavits that he filed in the county of Cook. I mean, it's just what it is, man. We have to know what a covenant is. A covenant of a citizen is an agreement or promise of two or more parties by deed in writing, signed and delivered, by which either of the parties pledge himself to the other, that sometimes is either done or shall be done or shall not be done, or stipulates for the truth of certain facts. So, as Moorish Americans here in the Maxima, now commonly known as America, under the divine leadership of the Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali, we are to attain to covenants put in place under this body politic. There is but one covenant for the unity of the Asiatic race, and this covenant is known as a Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nations, Moors. This is reference to chapter 25 of the Holy Quran, Circle 7 of the Moorish Science Temple of America. This holy pamphlet was divinely prepared by our Prophet Noble Drew Ali. So when you covenant through the Holy Covenant of the Asiatic nation, you covenant with the whole people, and the whole people covenant with you. So to covenant is to make a pledge. Pledge has a broad definition, but the main focus for now, Moors, is that it is a promise or an agreement by which one binds himself to do, or forbears himself to do, or forbear something. The promise or agreement, or the conditions of the pledge itself. So when thinking about the U.S. citizenship, you got to use and wonder about that 14th Amendment citizens that pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, Moors. But unfortunately, U.S. citizens think that being born here makes you a citizen. Not if you don't have an MST Of A. This is what you get all this when you nationalize the right way. This is not true, Moors. U.S. citizens are naturalized, but not nationalized. Let me repeat this. U.S. citizens are naturalized, but not nationalized. That's a big difference, and we will go over that. But to lawfully be a subject or citizen of any form of government, depending on the rules and customs of that society, Moors, under its constitution and government, one must subscribe and take an oath. What oath? The oath of amnesty to its constitution and government. This goes for proclaimed Moorish Americans as well. You get all that when you go through the Moorish Science Temple. You get your amnesty of oath, you get your adoption papers, you get your dispensation papers, you get everything by taking an oath of amnesty and reconstruction of the Emancipation Proclamation and executive order issued by President Abraham Lincoln in 1865. You are a true American citizen. This oath is to be subscribed by a Grand Sheik, which is an officer lawfully authorized to administer such an oath, and then such an oath has to be recorded in the county. When a member of this body politic and corporate takes an oath of amnesty and reconstruction, he or she, or even the child, becomes part and parcel of the said government and returns back to the family of a nation. That's what your adoption papers is all about, which is the Asiatic nations. The term said denotes something declared or before mentioned. On your nationality card, our Prophet Noble Drew Ali declared you are a Muslim under the divine law of the Quran of Mecca, love, truth, peace, freedom, and justice. Then showing you that you are a citizen of the U.S.A. Coming out of a rebellious state, you have to take the said oath to be citizen of the perpetual union again. Islam, Moors. I mean, the term said government has been used in the Moorish divine constitution and bylaws a couple of times, particularly Moors in Acts 4, 6, and 7. And it denotes, look at what denote mean. A government in a former time. To be part of the said government is to be an equivalent of, whether citizen, subject, or even property, through citizenship or nationalization. The term parcel refers to a part or portion of land, Moors. A part of an estate, Moors. Parcel, as used with the reference to land, generally means a contiguous quantity of land in the possession of an owner. When I say when you go to court and you think one thing means something else in court, and that don't mean what it means in a court of law, you messed up. The estate that we partially own will be explained later in this reading, Moors. But do you understand what I'm saying, I hope? To be part and parcel of the said government is to be a member of the perpetual union of the USA. And in the existing rebellion like the Confederacy. And this is why members who take an oath of amnesty and reconstruction are congratulated and welcomed back to the family of nations, Moors. This is the true USA Republic form of government. in this land of our ancestors here in Mexico, in America. I hope you following me. When you talk about a nation in a nation, if you understand the law, you can establish yourself in a nation. So the question in mind is, I ask you, Moors, by taking an oath, covenant, and proclaiming your nationality as a Moorish American under Act 6, are we Moors? Are we members of two states, the perpetual union and the Moorish Science Temple of America? That's a question some may ask. It makes you think about how deep our Prophet Noble Drew Ali is. But the answer is yes and no. and most don't understand that. But if you as a student, you will. But now that we know that we are true citizens of the USA, another question on many minds are, how is a Moorish American duly a member of a sovereign body politic? Man, that's simple. That's elementary. There has to be conditions set forth for members intended by the founder for both to be agreed upon, and it is to successfully take place. So thankfully, Moors, our Act 6 of our Moorish Divine Constitution, our bylaws of the Moorish Science Temple of America, is the agreement between the members and the founders. Excuse me, Moors, is this not a pledge as well? Ask yourself that. The Holy Prophet Noble Drew Ali expressed that to be a Moorish American member of this body politic, Moors, you have to proclaim it. Teach our people their nationality, Moorish American and divine creed, to know that they are not Negro, black in color, or Ethiopians, and proclaim a free national name, El or Bey. And in exchange, the person and effects will be remembered by the Holy Prophet and in a inhabitant of the north and southwestern shores of Africa. That's the analogy of the old becoming the new. Study marine time, man. Study that. And admiralty. This is a beautiful position to be proud of, Moors. And I'm thankful to be a Moorish American member of this body politic, Moors. We got to know what a fee absolute is, defined as. We got to know what all this means, so we don't give up in fraudulent concealment. That's why our prophet said, I brought you your nationality, religion, and title to your vast estate. This is our requirement to show that he did indeed have an intent to deliver the vast estate to the Moorish American descents, letting you know who you were. Moors was already living up and down the Mississippi. You know? So we got to know this. And I close with another research, understanding the importance of status and jurisdiction. But I'm going to show you something. When a person be acting like they don't know what this science is, and when we be talking about putting things on notice, when things were put on notice a long time ago, I'm going to give you this, and we're done. Moorish American nation versus the United States of America, United States of Congress, United States of the Supreme Court. I'm going to show you this, and we're done. Now watch this. I'm going to read something to you. Now come to the petitioner. The Moorish American nation is proper persona, sua juris, and with constitution, de jure, to move this avertment of jurisdiction to the status of the Moorish American, hereby challenge the defendant, the United States Congress, the United States Supreme Court, to be recognized as a pure and clean nation, is now the order of today's judicial business. The supreme laws of the United States and all other free national governments judicially uphold. There can be no legal proceeding without the right order establishment of proper status. I hope y'all follow me. And apposite jurisdiction. These two pillars of law must be in place and have precedent before the adjudication of all formal matters of lawful substance can be addressed. Amistad Mutiny of 1841. The Dred Scott decision of 1856. The uniting of this new nation is the calling of one family, bearing their one free national name of the Moorish American. Is not to be misconstrued as a religious organization subjected to the United States. The above cited Supreme Court decision, combined with resolve as Eloy Gonzalez of Cuba versus the laws and citizens of the United States, where the laws Nazis personifying the supreme issues, Moors, of status and jurisdictions. So watch this. They were talking about fighting back then that, hey, you can't tell us who we are. You know, this is a letter written to President Bush, the 41st president. I'm going to show you this and we're going to read it. And I'm going to show you the receipt and everything. And you use the same thing when, that's why I say when a person trying to sue you or something and they send you letters and they use those, and of course say we sent letters to your addresses, you do the same thing. For the record, Your Honor, President, we'll talk about certain things for later lecture. So, okay. So, dear readers, be advised the above declaration and proclamation of the Moorish American status and jurisdiction has been mailed as a notice to the President of the United States via his father, the 31st President, through the following diplomatic missive. This missive was received by his office on April 24th, 2006. However, there has not been a written response as of this date, June 7, 2006, and is now being submitted into the worldwide public domain via the website, sevensealspublications.com. You can research this. I don't hide nothing from my brothers and sisters. You can research everything I'm saying as declared and study it and make sure it's valid. As declared, this holy doctrine will now follow up the legal spine of the status quo into the final or to the finale of the Moorish American national recognition and acceptance. In the words of the Prophet Noble Drew Ali, the only way out of this fire is through the fire. The letter to the Bush administration has not been altered except in a PDF form for the website. And that's what I'm saying. In certain states, man, in certain areas, they're known as Moors. The states, the courts recognized it. So I'm going to read something. The Honorable George Herbert Walker Bush, Office of George Bush, 10000 Memorial Drive, Suite 900, Houston, Texas. Enclosed, Moorish American Declaration Proclamation, dated April 19, 2006. I'm about to read this and we done, Moors. We pray you, your family, and all true American citizens are well. This is a covered missive of illustrious and diplomatic stature. Verily, it is a forerunner notifying an installation of the enclosed Declaration Proclamation of the Moorish American Nation. The intent and nature of these documents are of the highest honor and principles. They derive from the pure heart and minds of the Moorish American people, having formed themselves into a clean and pure nation. Now in due time, our heart is being extended to the heart of the United States of America through its presiding administration. True diplomacy is always the first course of communication amongst men of free national standards and principles. Egro, this directive is being sent through Honorable George Herbert Walker Bush, 31st President, as a follow-up from the hand-delivered version on or around January 23, 2006, by Mr. Allen and Flora Poe, District Director of the Women's Republican Party. To date, there has not been a responding activity acknowledging the receipt of the particular outreach. Due to the nobility and magnitude of this long-awaited solution, it would only be befitting to make every virtuous effect possible to allow the lion and the lamb to rest together and neither be harmed when morning comes. The sensitivity of this supreme issue merits an attaché of the highest caliber to light the pathway for millions to follow. He must be in right order because of magnanimous proportion of the virtue with the statesmanship to evolve into the utmost of its value with prudence. For this historical endeavor, the Honorable 41st President has been our channel of choice to assure perpetual greatness to the American due. 1. His history of being a U.S. Ambassador, Moors. 2. Director of Security Central Consciousness. 3. The guider of nation's first family. And 4. Integrity and immediate accessibility to the sitting President, Honorable George W. Bush. This course Moorish Americans present in North America is a handclasp of unity being pursued above a precedent sitting and more publicized appellate procedures offered through the U.S. federal courts. Not because the ultimate decision would not be victorious, but the sequence would not allow Mr. President the first opportunity to exercise his executive options and deploy the judicial arms to personally assist in the ordination and civil purging of the Moorish consciousness in the human family of nations. Indeed, there is still much wisdom to be learned from the descents of African Moors. Our Messiah and first Moorish American patriot, prophet, noble Drew Ali, 1886 to 1929, instructed us to go to those who know the law in the city hall and in government and ask in an intelligent tone, and they will give you a favorable reply. And I'm telling you, that's what I do today, Moors. Drew Ali further stated, I am certain the President administration will be happy to help us to bring our people out of the darkness into the marvelous light. You can read all this. I'm going to show you the letter was sent. The proof of the postal and delivery receipts to President Bush. So when I tell brothers and sisters, people know, the world know. The problem is Negro, blacks, and color don't know who they are. And that's the problem. We sit around and somebody asks you who you are as a Christian and don't understand true history. You know? We don't know who we are. The Moorish Americans are a clean and pure nation. And as an immaculate nation, we have justly come into existence with the ratification of the 1865, the 13th Amendment's abolishment of slavery. Although the 1868's 14th Amendment gave Congress of the United States assumable jurisdiction over all persons born or naturalized. Since the ratification of the 14th and 15th, the ex post facto to the 13th Amendments to the Moorish Americans have been a comatose people, certified as mental Negro, black, and colored. I like to call MBCs, Moors, slaves. They were not taught to be themselves until 1913 by our Moorish Messiah. But I can go on and on and on, Moors, but it's known. I love you all, Moors. Navigate, navigate. Tomorrow, we're going to do a civics lecture. It's going to be, I'll say, about like 3 o'clock. And we're going to give a little divine warning. And we're going to clear up that mess about that UCC mess and all that sovereign bull crap. That ain't got nothing to do with Moors. I love you all. Love, truth, peace, freedom, justice. My 2 cents, Moors, health, and wealth. Peace.